Hey, Bobby, play any kickball today?
Why? You up for a game?
Just saying hi. Just saying hi.
Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here. This is an episode where Bobby Hill runs around kicking people in the nuts. That's not the only context, but let's face it. Do you really need any more? The episode starts with a bunch of girls arriving for a sleepover at Connie's house.
But I do have an unobstructed view of hot girl-on-girl pillow fight action from my bedroom window.
Not as good as the view from my roof with my dad's thermal goggles. I'll be able to see their body heat.
You know, it is possible that I've just forgotten what it's like to be a young, strapping lad with raging hormones dictating my every action. But good golly O'Malley, does this feel incredibly creepy. Connie wants to have typical sleepover shenanigans, but at every turn, Con makes it not fun.
Lights out at 9:30. Also, you have to sign this. It says that we are not responsible for any injury that might occur during sleepover.
Con, a contract signed by a child is not valid. You gotta get their legal guardians to sign. Why do you think schools use permission slips?
What are you doing? What part of the contract didn't you understand? Give me the pillows.
Feeling desperate and having an entertainer as a boyfriend, Connie begs Bobby to come over and spice up her get-together.
Woo, Bobby, take it off. Give the girls what they paid for.
I reiterate from a previous video, why is Hank worried about this boy's love life?
Oh yeah, she's got nice ones.
Just gonna not comment on that. To everyone's surprise, Bobby isn't the only boy making an appearance at this slumber party.
What's Chain Wasana-song doing here? I might have told him you were having a sleepover.
Jeez, Connie didn't even hesitate. She knew exactly whose fault this was. I know Chang was mentioned briefly in an earlier review, but this is my first time really talking about him, so I guess he needs some context. Chang is the son of Ted Wanna Sing a Song, the rich Asian whom Con is constantly trying to rub elbows with. Chang isn't particularly bright, he's aggressive, and he has a thing for Connie, so that naturally means he hates Bobby. Alright guys, we got a classic boyfriend versus bully witty banter. Chang, you're up first.
Check it out. It's Booby Hill.
That's an okay one, but Bobby isn't sensitive about his weight. In fact, a bunch of girls were just cheering him on to take his shirt off, so it's not gonna land you any points. Bobby?
When God was passing out wit, you thought he said zit, and you asked for seconds.
Oh, Bobby, no! You were so close! You put the words zit and wit in the wrong places. They should have been switched. You basically just said Chang is twice as smart as everyone else.
We came for a pillow fight.
Connie's dad took them all.
Then how about just fight?
Oh, what was that?
Jeez, Con, you were ready. Were you sleeping standing up next to Connie's door? Con kicks the boys out, and they all meet up outside to finish their business. Despite that 5 seconds ago Bobby was standing up to Chang, he suddenly becomes a coward and is forced to eat dirt. It might be because he was doing it in front of Connie, but even still, King of the Hill is pretty wishy-washy on Bobby and how good he is at dealing with bullies.
I have a little speech I've been saving for the day Bobby gets beat up by a bully, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen. Every time the boy gets into a jam, he shoves french fries up his nose and makes a new friend.
After getting beat up, Bobby runs to tell Hank about the experience.
I'll find out Chang's address so you can go over there and make his dad eat dirt.
There is only one person who can fight your battles for you. And I know you don't want to hear this, but that person is you.
Ooh, sensitive topic here. There are some people who believe adults have a responsibility to step in whenever there is any form of bullying among kids. On the opposite side of the argument, some believe that constantly fighting kids' battles for them makes them grow up to be soft and entitled, and that it's better they learn to fend for themselves at a young age so they'll be prepared for the cruel world as an adult. Personally, while I do lean towards the fend for themselves mentality, I'm a bit of a fence-sitter on this topic. Each bully victim scenario is different. Sometimes standing up for oneself works, but other times it just invites more challenge. So while I do think it's best to let kids fend for themselves most of the time, I also think it's important to keep an eye on these types of situations just to make sure they don't get out of hand. For Bobby's scenario, however, I agree with Hank. The best course is for Bobby to learn to defend himself. Hank suggests that Bobby take boxing lessons at the YMCA like he did when he was younger.
So, taking those boxing lessons kept the bullies from picking on you?
Bullies? Picking on me?
A little reminder that Hank is not against bullying, he's just against being bullied. So Bobby heads to the Y to sign up for classes. Unfortunately, the attendant, who's definitely not Stephen Root, tells him that most of the classes are full.
There is one other class, but it wouldn't be right for you.
There's nothing about the YMCA that's right for me.
I actually really like how Bobby winds up going to this class. Nothing feels like it's done just to advance the plot. It all flows naturally. Bobby goes to the class, but he's immediately told he's in the wrong place.
Are you sure you're in the right class? This is women's self-defense.
Ah, so Nancy did wind up buying that wig after all.
Please, miss, all the other courses are full.
I'm sorry, it's for women only. We're trying to maintain a certain comfort level here.
Bobby appeals to the instructor's inner feminism and explains how he was victimized by 3 men.
Okay, you can stay.
But only because you sound like a grown woman. The instructor, who's definitely not Ashley Gardner, proceeds with the lesson, and it's here we get to see what Bobby signed up for.
Most women who are attacked are subdued by verbal threats. Today we're going to get used to hearing these threats, keeping our cool, and practicing some responses of our own.
This self-defense class isn't teaching people how to fight, but rather it's teaching women how to escape from being a victim by any means necessary.
I want everybody to try it. You first. See, I don't hate men.
I don't hate men either, though she did get on my nerves when she and Khan bought that car wash.
Give me your purse, now!
That's my purse.
Don't be afraid to shout it.
All right, you guys ready? Here it comes.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
And thus the meme was born. Later at school, Bobby gets a chance to test out his newfound skills.
When you kiss this loser, do you still taste dirt?
No, not anymore.
Connie, you're not helping. Bobby tries to talk his way out of the situation, but Chang isn't having it. So, in the butchered words of Tommy Pickles, a Bobby's gotta do what a Bobby's gotta do.
I don't know you!
Bobby rushes home to tell Hank he won the fight, leaving out exactly how it was done. Hank, hearing that his son won a fight and being both a Texan and a dad, rewards Bobby's behavior. Of course, the school's not too happy about Bobby getting in a fight, and he winds up in detention. I don't think I'm saying anything too revolutionary here when I mention that getting in trouble for defending yourself is stupid. Pretty sure this is just done so schools don't get sued. Remember, kids, you have to stand up to bullies, but not physically. Also, I don't see Chang in there, which makes me think this is a one-sided punishment, but maybe he just got a different room. Bobby goes to serve his detention, but is immediately threatened by some kids. Time to break out his insta-win move.
That's my purse!
Bobby's second encounter makes his way to Connie, who gets upset at him for defending himself. Wait, what?
I kind of liked it better when you used to play dad or joked your way out of a tight spot.
Okay, so this is where things get complicated. You might think this is one of King of the Hill's more popular episodes since Bobby's meme is so famous, but in actuality, the vast majority of people are very critical of it, and that's because it makes a few crucial mistakes. The first mistake is in the storytelling. Part of what the episode wants to do is tell a classic power corrupts story. Bobby is an underdog, he gets possession of some kind of power, and he slowly starts exploiting it until he eventually becomes the thing he was trying to defeat in the first place. So Bobby fighting those boys in detention was supposed to be his start to being slowly corrupted. That's why Connie gets upset at Bobby for doing it. Unfortunately, they did the scene completely wrong. In detention, Bobby was still acting in self-defense. Those other kids were approaching him in a clearly threatening manner. What's weird is the episode had the perfect setup to do this properly. Before going into detention, Joseph tells Bobby he should preemptively establish dominance.
The best way to survive is to take out the biggest guy there. That way you establish who's boss right from the get-go.
If Bobby had simply taken down the tallest kid without being threatened, the scene would have worked a lot better because in his mind, he would still be defending himself. But in reality, he'd be the one starting the fight. As is, Bobby is still just a kid defending himself, which makes Connie's comments about how she misses the old version of him feel nonsensical. The next scene has Bobby approaching Clark, who's bullying another kid. Bobby, with his new power, gets a vigilante complex and decides to stand up for his friend. Even though it's not done in self-defense this time, it's still being done in the defense of someone else. The episode is really failing at making Bobby look like the corrupted one. All the fights reach the ear of the principal, and he decides to call the Hills in, hoping to put a stop to it.
Bobby, you want to tell your parents how you won your fight?
With all my might, I kicked him as hard as I could in his testicles.
What? Where in the heck did you learn to do that?
At the women's self-defense course.
Women's self-defense?
What did I do?
That line makes me laugh every time. But I've been told by a certain celery stick that I'm not allowed to script my laughs anymore.
You can't have your boy going around kicking people in their testicles.
I know that, Carl.
And here is the second major mistake the episode makes. It assumes that the viewer will agree with the idea that kicking below the belt is an absolute wrong, as if we're living in the Golden Compass world and testicles are demons or something. This particular problem delves into storytelling morals in general. Writers have to make assumptions when telling stories. If they dive into everything presented, the audience will easily get bored. This includes morals. When a moral is so obvious that it doesn't need to be explored, you just assume the audience knows whether it's right or wrong. Unfortunately, when doing this, you run the risk of oversimplifying complex situations, as well as assuming your moral code lines up with everyone else's when it may not. This is actually a mistake Hollywood has been doing a lot these days, assuming their morals are the universal ones and failing to properly set up why. Because the episode made the assumption that kicking below the belt is an obvious absolute wrong, it doesn't bother explaining why. And because it doesn't bother explaining, everyone who disagrees with it, which is a lot of people, including myself, will have a problem with Bobby being punished for just defending himself. When you're defending yourself or your property from a physical threat, your highest priority should be your own safety. Sure, if Bobby were in a boxing arena or something, hitting below the belt would be taboo. But in the streets, there's no such thing as a fair fight. In that circumstance, the other party has already decided that they don't care about being fair when they escalated the situation to using force. And the funny thing is, the argument I just said is a typical one used by people who support the Second Amendment. So it's really strange that this show full of conservative Texans would assume that they'd all believe what Bobby's doing is wrong. Hank takes Bobby home and tries to set him quote-unquote straight. He starts teaching Bobby how to box so his son doesn't have to rely on kicking below the belt anymore.
This, Bobby, is the belt line. You never, ever hit below that. Always above.
But it works.
Son, I'm going to show you how to fight above the belt. Here.
As much as I disagree with Hank about the kicking thing, this is a good move. Bobby will eventually come across an opponent who won't be as susceptible to his secret weapon, like someone who knows how to take a hit in the groin, or a guy who keeps his guard up, or, a girl.
Now, Bobby, just to warn you, you're probably going to have to take a couple of shots before you learn how to protect yourself properly. Now get your gloves up like this.
When Bobby was at the YMCA, the instructor gave a demonstration before allowing Bobby to try it himself. This, and the fact that the lesson was very simple, allowed Bobby to learn what to do fairly quickly. Hank, however, is using the learn to swim by pushing them in the water technique, although this is a much less extreme version of it. Hank figures that if Bobby wants to avoid getting hit, he'll eventually start adapting the techniques that will allow him to do so. It's like the tutorial level of a video game. You learn by doing with instructions being given to you along the way.
Come on.
No. Hey.
Come on, you're not moving.
Unfortunately, as any gamer will tell you, if there's a winning move that works every time you use it, you're gonna wind up using it.
You left yourself open, Dad.
Okay, I know it was done for comedic purposes, but that little dance right there is where I start to lose sympathy for Bobby. Unlike the other situations, here Bobby was in a controlled circumstance. Him dancing around because he pulled a dirty move shows me that he doesn't understand that he still can't fight. The only reason he's scraping by is because he's relying on a crutch move that no one else is willing to do. He doesn't seem to realize that Hank could have just as easily kicked him below the belt. But Shady, isn't that what you wanted? Bobby eventually being corrupted by the power he wields? Yes, but it's done poorly here. Before this point in the story, Bobby was already seen as doing something wrong. If this had been the point where the episode started to turn against him, it would literally be a different story. Bobby's actions put Hank in a crippled state, which is kind of weird. Like, I don't doubt that kicking someone in the nuts could do that, but Hank is the only person it happens to. Bill even gets kicked by Dale later, and the episode just plays it off as a joke.
I wish I had a son to kick me in the nuts.
We transition to the next scene, and Bobby goes to apologize to Hank for what happened.
I'm sorry about what happened, but when you hit me in the nose...
You mean the nose above your belt?
I understand Hank's frustration. A, he's in a lot of pain, and B, he did specifically tell Bobby not to hit below the belt, which Bobby disobeyed.
I was teaching you how to fight above the belt.
It was the way I learned how to defend myself.
Yes, Bobby, but you used it in a civil situation where it was specifically barred from. That isn't self-preservation, that's pride. With the way this episode goes, it feels like Bobby himself has never been kicked down there. I doubt he'd be so eager to unleash his secret weapon on his dad if he knew how badly it hurts.
By kicking me in my fellas? Dirty pool, mister. Dirty pool.
Oh, goodness. Why is it dirty pool, Hank? You're not explaining to your kid who keeps doing this to people why it's a bad thing to do. You just keep telling him it's bad when life keeps telling him it's good. I may understand, Hank, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's completely in the right here.
Let's discuss your punishment.
For what? You told me to go to the Y and learn to defend myself, and I did.
Bobby, Hank's not punishing you for any of the things you just said. He's punishing you for what you did afterwards, which was deliberate disobedience. So Bobby gets his television, video games, and ice cream taken away from him, as well as he has to do extra chores.
Right now, he's out back pulling weeds. No gloves, no weasel.
Don't really like that. Giving him a chore is one thing, but what does making that chore harder prove? We make our way to Connie's room where Bobby is talking to her about his situation.
You kicked your father? We all have those feelings, Bobby, but you never act on them.
Is there something you want to talk about, Connie?
I'm both respecting your privacy by knocking, but asserting my authority as your father by coming in anyway.
I heard what you did to Chain Wasana-san.
Con also hears about Bobby's predicament and decides to plant a seed of chaos.
The old man punishing you? You don't have to take that from him.
Okay, I know parents aren't always in the right, and a little rebellion builds character, but I am almost always triggered when an outside entity tries to come between a child and their parent by manipulating the child.
Till he can get up from that chair? You the boss.
This isn't a very forward-thinking plan. Hank's only going to be in that chair for a few days. Bobby decides to listen to Con and not only play video games, but do so right in front of Hank.
That's a video game, I told you. No video games. Give it to me.
Hold on, I'm almost done.
See, this is where I lose all sympathy for Bobby. He's not doing this because he thinks he's in an unfair situation. He's doing this because he knows Hank can't stop him. And it's not the first time he's done something like this either.
Give me that thing!
Dad, that's not respectful adult-child growth dialogue.
I'll give you dialogue!
Bobby continues to not only defy Hank, but disrespect him.
I'm not gonna ask you again. Give me that god-dang video game.
Soon, I'm almost bored with it. Why don't you go inside? I'll find you later.
Come on.
Unfortunately, because Hank is usually the one doing the punishing, Bobby kind of forgot he also has a mom who doesn't play these games.
I would not let a stranger, let alone my own son, think for 1 second that they can get away with showing any disrespect towards the man that I love. You do that, and you have to deal with Peggy Hill.
Peggy haters, even you've got to admit, that's a good line. Peggy wrestles the Game Boy away from Bobby in a really awkward animation. King of the Hill is not good with action scenes. Bobby can't get it back because, as we've established, he's not exactly gifted in the physical department.
Wait, the secret weapon!
Do I believe Bobby's kick will have little to no effect on Peggy? Yes. A, Bobby isn't wearing a shoe. B, Peggy is a pretty tough woman. And C, Bobby is not good at fighting, so it would have been a very pitiful kick. However, it is very annoying that a lot of shows and movies perpetuate that not having testicles means you're invulnerable down there. You're not. Also, some of you might not know this, but there is one more joke this episode is very famous for.
I believe you will find that I have no testicles.
She bluffing? Finish her!
Because Bobby has no way of effectively dealing with Peggy, the fight ends with his punishment continuing.
Well, I guess next time you won't try to take on your old man.
You had to get Mom to fight your battle for you.
It's not so fun when someone doesn't fight fair, is it?
What? How is that the lesson of the episode? Your wife helping you out is not fighting dirty, especially when you're temporarily disabled. Also, Bobby knows it's not fun when someone doesn't fight fair. His fights with most of his bullies were him being the victim of people not fighting fair. The lesson in this particular moment should have been that the reason most people don't kick below the belt is because it's a crutch. Kicking someone in the crotch and getting an easy win is not the same as fighting. And when you come across someone who can deal with that move, you're gonna instantly lose if you relied on it too much. And that was Bobby Goes Nuts. Meme-worthy, but not a good episode. It demonizes Bobby for fighting unfair during unfair situations. And yes, Hank was right to punish Bobby when he fought dirty during their training, but he never explains why what Bobby did was wrong in the first place. The episode in its entirety assumes all fights will be fair situations, and that's just not true. Shoot, it even shows us that the fights Bobby gets into aren't. There are 3 ways this episode could have gone that would have made it a lot better. 1, they could have done the power corrupts tale they were trying to tell, but this time do it right where Bobby actually winds up becoming a bully. 2, Bobby could have learned this new insta-win move, but over-relied on it, despite being warned he needed to take a real self-defense class, eventually facing a bully who isn't affected by what he had to offer. Or 3, the episode could have been about how the reason Bobby is the only one willing to kick someone in the groin is because it never happened to him before, ending with him being kicked and understanding why doing so is not allowed in civilized fights. As it is now, the episode comes across as unrealistic and unfair to Bobby, who was just standing up for himself. This has been Shady Doorags. So long, farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.